What's going on YouTube? It's Caden here. It's been a long time since I've talked to you guys. Things got kind of crazy in my life, but I do want to be more intentional about posting on YouTube in 2018 and growing this channel. So I just thought I might start here on January 1st doing a recap of 2017. I was looking back at my Instagram today and going through trying to put some words together for a post to sum up 2017, and honestly, it was the biggest growing experience I've ever gone through in my almost 26 years on this planet. Just wanted to kind of recap the year and kind of show you guys that growth process, especially because 2017 started extremely rough for me. It was probably the lowest rock bottom I've had in my life. And here I am at the end of it, or I guess now in 2018, in a really, really positive place where I feel like I'm growing in the right direction finally. So just wanted to kind of address that with you guys. I think that this year for me, all in all, is just a huge reminder that things get better and just to trust kind of the whole process, and that, you know, once you're at that rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. Let's just start with January 2017. It was a very transitional part of my life. I had just broken off a serious relationship of over a year. It was a living situation that I was in that, you know, kind of went south. And I was having top surgery the second week of January. So it was just a really bad time for things to go crashing down, to not have that person in your corner. Ultimately, going into top surgery, I felt very alone. That all happened in December. I settled into a new living situation in December where I was living completely alone, just me and Hank, and that had never been the case before. So that was a huge, huge experience, just kind of really taking that plunge, because I didn't feel like I had anyone in my life that I wanted to share my experience, I guess, going through recovery and all that with. I didn't have anyone I felt comfortable living with at that point. So I took a place by myself, and it ended up being a really hard thing to do at the beginning, but I grew so much and learned so much about myself because of it that I would recommend to anyone in probably their early to mid 20s, if you can get some time to live alone. It's a really, really good experience that you'll grow a lot from. That's kind of how I started the year. Is I flew down to Florida on January 10th, I believe it was, and had top surgery on the 12th. And spent, you know, a week there with my family, really growing. I didn't have, you know, the best family relationships last year or the years before that when I was in college. My family just kind of jumped on board, I guess, the month before top surgery, and, you know, decided to stay down there with me. At least my parents, my step-parents, and my younger sister and my younger stepbrother, and then my biological brother came. So it was a really, really big deal. It was a really big growing experience because no one was necessarily already comfortable with my trans status. I mean, it was very, very difficult. We had never lived in close proximity. And it was, you know, my mother had to be, you know, kind of my nurse that whole week, where she was, you know, waking me up for my meds. She was sponge bathing me. Like, it was crazy. It was just a huge experience that I never thought she would be the person I was sharing it with. But it turns out me and my mom have the strongest relationship we've had in my entire life at this point. So that's something that really was huge, hugely life-changing for me outside of just the physical aspect of it. So you had top surgery. I came home. Ultimately, the person that I was kind of seeing at that point, things fell apart the day after I got home from top surgery, where I was supposed to have them stay with me. And honestly just didn't feel comfortable at all, had them leave, and did pretty much the rest of my recovery 100% alone. And I really don't regret any of it. I mean, it was really, really hard. I got a lot of post-op depression, but I grew so much from being alone and learning myself. I didn't know anything about myself at that point, I don't think, because I had always relied on someone else to kind of carry me and make me feel okay with who I was. And that was really the first time that I had ever developed that sense of self and understanding of who I really was as a person. So I think that experience itself kind of shaped the way for this year to go. So, you know, January was tough, but at least I had, you know, my new body. I had a lot of recovery to focus on. February, I was supposed to go back to my bartending job which I really loved. You know, they gave me the time off to go have top surgery. I was very grateful. Turned out my second or third shift back, things were kind of weird. The owners had come back, and I was unable to prove this legally, but there's no other explanation to me other than they kind of pushed me out of the restaurant due to my having surgery at that time. So I really don't want to get any further into that, but that was the first job I ever lost outside of my own accord. So it obviously furthered my depression. My last shift was on Valentine's Day. I was serving all these very happy people, and I didn't have a job the next day. So that was the hardest thing I probably went through this year, was losing that livelihood when I was just ready to get back on that horse after surgery. I was finally cleared to go back to work, and I lost my job within days. So it was a lot more alone time than I imagined I would have to have. That was February for me. It was just really, really going into rock bottom. And then March came, and my birthday's in March. I spent my 25th birthday this year 100% alone. I didn't speak to anyone other than my dog and probably the pizza guy that brought a pizza to my house. Didn't leave my apartment, pretty much just got stoned all day and drank on my couch, and it was very, very lonely. And I think I said I was doing it for me just because that's what I wanted to do, but honestly, I was so depressed that I didn't have the capability to go out and try to, make plans for my birthday or do anything like that. So I turned 25 completely in solitude, and I don't regret it at this point, but again, looking back, it's just something that I am like, wow, I mean, you were really down there. So March was really tough for me. And then, so April is kind of when I started to lose control and let go of things. April, my mom had called me one day. She was like, look, you've been living alone for 2 months trying to, use your savings to support yourself. You don't have a job yet. Job search is not going well. And for those of you that didn't know, I got my master's in higher education last year, so I was trying to get another job in higher ed, but obviously in the springtime, it's not a very good hiring time. You got students have spring break, and then they've got that awkward month and a half before finals and all that. So people just weren't hiring, and I couldn't get a job in my field. My mom called, and she was like, we got to pull the plug on this thing. You got to come home, and you can't just keep draining your savings. So I made the decision to leave Rhode Island. I was living in Rhode Island, and moved back home for the first time in 7 years. And that's a big hit to take when you're 25 years old and, very independent. So moved back into my mother's house and didn't have a job. Although I moved back at the very end of April. I also started a new relationship at the end of April. Oddly enough, went on a date the day before I moved back to Boston, and it was just something that I felt okay about at the time. But honestly, I feel like now it was probably just the depression and loneliness that brought me into that relationship. Looking back, hindsight's 2020, and I can't find anything that we really had in common. That kind of started the day before I moved. But also what happened the day before I moved is I got a call from the company that I interviewed with, and they offered me a position. So before I moved, I knew I'd be starting my new job on May 1st, and that was a really big thing for me. So that was kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't really know anyone left in Boston, but, I was going to start a new life. So moved back to my mom's, started my new job, and, that was May for me. It was really kind of like learning a new career. I went into recruiting, and it was crazy. I actually really liked it. I'm really, really good at what I do, and I had never, touched recruiting before, never really thought about doing it, and it's just something I was naturally pretty good at, and I didn't expect it, and that was a huge, huge turnaround for me, was finding a career that I enjoy and that I feel confident at. So that was huge, being able to be out at work, and be successful in the position that I had. I was hired stealth. I spent the first month or two of my new job stealth, before I kind of disclosed to people, and it was amazing, just kind of getting to live as like another guy in the office, and, getting this job that I didn't feel inadequate for the first time in my life, and it was amazing. So, and I'm still with that company today. It was actually my 8-month anniversary since I started that job. So really, really happy to be progressing in that aspect. So May is kind of when things started to turn around for me, honestly. I ended up getting another apartment in June, and so I got this apartment that I'm in now. I just kind of randomly found it. It was like a Craigslist posting. I live with three 21-year-old girls that I had never met before. So it's pretty funny. It's a very funny dynamic. But honestly, I'm so blessed to be here. I mean, this setup is really good for me. I'm enjoying it. I have people around a lot, and it's been a really big deal. Also, just kind of pushing me outside of my comfort zone. Living with people I've never known before. Early on into my transition, not early, but I still just kind of had some discomforts about it. I was in a new city, didn't really know how to approach the situation. They didn't know what I was trans when I looked at the apartment, so that brought up some weird questions. Why does this 25-year-old guy want to live with all these young girls? Anyway, it worked out really well. We're getting along really well, and I've been living here for about 6 months now. So that's kind of June. And then, the summertime was amazing. Really got to enjoy the body that I had worked for so long and worked to heal, and had gone through that surgery and everything. It was just so amazing to kind of finally feel that come full circle, to kind of feel like a normal guy, I guess. And obviously still get dysphoria in public around scarring and things like that. Just from a safety standpoint, I have no shame about my trans status and things like that, but you never know people's perspectives, especially in this world. People are always going to think in different ways. So that's something. But honestly, I could not have been happier with the surgery I had and the recovery, and I just feel so good about my body. Obviously, it's always going to be a work in progress for me. I'm someone who's dealt with eating disorders in the past and things like that, so it's always going to be a work in progress, but I've never kind of felt this positive about it, so that's amazing. Throughout the summer, it was just kind of learning Boston, meeting new people, learning my company. And that's kind of when I fell off the face of the earth on YouTube. Was, I tried to get back into it, but I was just really trying to grow and establish myself here. And I feel like I did that finally. September brought me Philly Trans Health for the first time, and it was so amazing. It was probably the highlight of my year, next to surgery. So I had planned to go with my buddy Cam, who I'd met through the FTM Traveler meetup in Providence with Malcolm. And Cam had another friend from Boston, and he was coming from New York, so he was like, you guys drive together, and I'll meet you down there, we'll get an Airbnb. So I picked up this kid, Jude, picked him up for the 6-hour drive. It was the first time we met each other, and we just hit it off from minute one, honestly. Like, there was not an awkward moment in the car. It was crazy. Like, I'd never really connected with someone so instantly like that before. And it's unbelievable. And me and Jude, we hang out, any chance we get in Boston now. So that's one of the biggest things I took from Philly Trans Health, was got this amazing friend in Boston who I relate to so well. Other than that, I mean, just being in a place where everyone is sharing a similar experience to you, and you don't feel like such an outsider because everybody kind of has that. It was absolutely amazing. I'm 100% going back next year. I could not have been happier with that experience. And then the other thing I just want to talk about was kind of, my family relationships developing over this year. I already talked about, my mom. It's been a really big thing. Another one is my little sister. She's 10. She turned 10 in October. And, just living in another state for the past 7 years, as well as going through this transition over the last almost 2 years, for a young kid, that's really hard to understand, especially when you can't see your oldest sibling all the time. And then every time you do see them, they look completely different, let alone a different face, like another gender. That's a really hard thing to comprehend, going through it for a new name, everything like that. But she is just so bright and loving, and I could tell that at the beginning of my transition, it was very difficult for her to understand. She never questioned it, but I could tell she felt a little awkward sometimes. And ever since her birthday in October, and since I've been here and been present in Boston and been seeing them more often, it all kind of came full circle for me, like over the holidays, seeing her. And I'll probably never forget this moment. It was only a couple weeks ago, and my phone was ringing, and it was my dad's number, so I picked up, and I was like, hey, Dad, and it was actually my little sister, and she had called me. She was so proud. She just wanted to tell me about the new role that she got cast in for a play that she's doing. She's really into theater and singing, and she's so amazingly talented. I can't even believe she's 10 years old, but honestly, she got a role in The Lion King, and she called me, and we just had, a conversation about her theater experience and what she loves to do for like a good 10 minutes. And I don't think we've ever had that kind of experience before. And I'm like tearing up about it, honestly. Like, it was such an amazing moment for me, just to kind of have that connection with her, and to just go home for Christmas after that and just have her be so excited to have me around. And she was kind of like attached to my hip for a lot of the time, and it's just really, really amazing for me to feel that. And just my family life it's been eye-opening the last few months. My grandparents, who are incredibly healthy my whole life, had some unexpected genetic health things go on that were really, really hard for me to deal with. I didn't know if it was the last time I'd be able to see them. So the fact that I'm here in Boston now and I get to be present with them has been so, so important to me. So just like really, really growing, finally having my family around and not really walking on eggshells around me anymore, not feeling awkward talking to me about what I'm going through. I had this moment over Thanksgiving where my brother, who me and him don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, he's very much on the Republican end of things, a lot of privilege that he doesn't really recognize yet, and that's okay. Just kind of was saying some things that were personally affecting me based on what I had gone through in the past with sexual assault and things like that. And I kind of lost it in front of my mom and my brother, and my mom was kind of defending him until I had an outburst about what had happened to me. Then it kind of changed the tone of things, and my mom talked to me about it, and really for the first time had listened to what I've kind of been through over these last several years that I wasn't present with them, and why I wasn't present with them. And that kind of really was a game changer for us. I mean, I felt like she really understood kind of where my anger and my pain and my inability to cope with certain things kind of came from, and that was a really big deal. Ultimately, like, this year has been so much growth, and just not only learning about myself, but learning about the people that I have close to me, and learning how to communicate with them in ways that we're all going to understand better. We're all going to feel better about what's being talked about, and ultimately moving forward, we're all going to move as a stronger unit. And that's pretty much the biggest takeaway that I've taken from this year is, if there are people in your life that you really want to connect with, and they might not have the ability to have a certain relationship with you right now for certain reasons. Maybe it's the past, maybe it's things that are going on with them right now, maybe it's things that are going on with you that they just aren't connecting with. Just try to meet them where they're at, because if it's important to you and you can communicate that to them, that's all that really matters. If you can wait out the storm with them and be like, hey, I'm trying to help you see through this, I'm going to be here for you in whatever capacity you need me to be until you're comfortable with whatever we're meant to be at this point. And that's kind of what I've been doing with everyone in my life. Is I don't have any reservations about who I am as a person, and if you have them, that's all right. I mean, this is a hard process to go through for the person inside the body and the people outside who love that person or have loved that person. And I've just learned to be really understanding with people, and it's really, really strengthened some relationships that I've been craving to have back in my life. So if that's one thing that I can leave you with for 2018, is try to work on how you communicate with the people around you, how you understand their perspectives, and how you ultimately move forward at a pace that's going to help you grow stronger together. And that can mean in a romantic relationship, in a family relationship, your friend, your coworkers. Try to meet people where they're at, because honestly, this world is too complicated. Everyone has different views. If you can take a step back and say, I know me, I'm comfortable with me, let me help you be comfortable with me. That's kind of the approach I've taken with people, and I've gained everything in the world just from that one piece of information this year. So that's what I want to leave you with. I'm not going to bore you too much. I'm really excited for 2018. I think this is going to be another huge year growing for me. I just booked my hysterectomy consult in a couple weeks, so I'm really nervous and excited about that, but excited just to kind of see that process through, start the year with another big milestone. honestly just kind of take the year head on. I mean, we grow from the things that we're most afraid of. Just kind of stepping into the ring, and you know what? If life beats you down, just get back up. That was my motto for 2017. That's what I'm carrying into 2018. I'm going to be an active participant in my life in every aspect. I just want to make sure that I'm making the most of every single day I have. And I hope you do the same. I hope everyone had an amazing 2017. I can't wait to bring you some more content for 2018. Yeah, I'm really excited. Let's do it, guys. Can't wait to see some more of you.